Welcome to Mr. Rogers' Hobbyhood, the neighborhood of making things. I'm Ben Rogers, and I have not been what you might call a regular YouTube contributor. But with people staying home a little bit more right now, I was really inspired by a great group of friends I have known as the Society of Creative Anachronism, or SCA. For those of you that might not be familiar with the SCA, it's a group of medieval enthusiasts who like to learn about, recreate, fight, and play in our own medieval world. We're not strict reenactors, but it's more likely to say we recreate the Middle Ages as we would have liked them to be. There's lots of SCA introduction videos on YouTube if you'd like to learn more about the group. But in the SCA, I am known as Matthias Worcestershire. I'm an early 15th century English academic and scribe who was educated in Italy at the University of Bologna about the year 1400. And I like to make all the things. But I have a special love for calligraphy. So I live in the Borderlands Contact Group, which is in southwest Kansas. That's part of the Kingdom of Callantyre. So this video series in particular is dedicated to all of my isolated SCA friends and to all of my Callantyre family who has been supporting each other so well throughout this time of isolation. So if you're like me, then you often pick up tips and tricks by watching other people do calligraphy. So this is definitely hope that other calligraphers can gain some new information, a new tip or a trick or something, or just learn something new. But this series is also going to explore calligraphy starting at a completely novice level. So if you've never picked up a pen, this is definitely a place for you to start. This video is totally introduction, informational on where I'm going. So we're not demonstrating, just introducing some ideas of history, of the method that I'm going to be using, those types of things. So I was first introduced to Broad Pen Calligraphy about 7 years ago when I was a seminarian at Conception Seminary College, which is run by the monks of Conception Abbey. And Brother Michael, one of the monks, taught elective courses to all of us budding philosopher seminarians in calligraphy, and I chose to take I think I took all of the classes that he had because I enjoyed it. But as a plug for Brother Michael, who's an amazing teacher, he regularly hosts calligraphy retreats at the Abbey. I'll put a link in the Abbey website below, so you can check him out to see if maybe a calligraphy retreat at the monastery might be something you want to attend. One of Brother Michael's teachers was a wonderful calligrapher, Sheila Waters. She's still alive and has put out a book that we'll be using. And she still puts out some things every once in a while on Facebook and things like that. If you get to know her, she's just amazing work. And then Sheila Waters learned from Edward Johnston. Some people know Edward Johnston's name, not a lot, but he was an English artist and a typesetter who in many ways is best known for creating the underground typeface that was used for the London Underground. It's still used today, but he developed it in 1916. It's a beautiful typeface, and he realized the readability of sans serif type for public science and really put it into use in a great way, and he's known for that. However, what concerns us calligraphers is not his typesetting, but he is also considered the father of the modern resurgence in broad pen calligraphy. So by the beginning of the 20th century, writing with a broad-edged pen was pretty much a lost art. And it's through the research and the study of manuscripts which led Mr. Johnston to develop and to try to rediscover how these documents were written. He analyzed the tools, the order and direction of the strokes, pen angles, everything. And then in his studies, he noticed similarities between various time periods, and he normalized all of these across kind of the entire medieval period, and he developed what is known as the foundational hand. He wrote a book. It's called Writing, Illuminating, and Lettering, and it sparked a revolution of people learning the calligraphic arts, especially in Germany. And the foundational hand would be considered a modern script, but in my humble and therefore correct opinion, it is a good one to start with, even for people that are involved in medieval calligraphy, because it does a couple of things for us. It begins to associate calligraphy methods and strokes into a mind that understands modern letters. And once it understands, and we've got it, then the other scripts can be learned easier as just a series of variances from the foundational hand. I'll acknowledge that there's lots of teachers of calligraphy and calligraphers who do wonderful work, who have learned different methods and processes and series of approaches, but I am a faithful Johnstonian in my calligraphy. So that's the approach that I'm going to be taking in this series. There's lots of resources available on calligraphy. Edward Johnston's book, Writing and Illuminating and Lettering, it's a wonderful read for those who really want to geek out on how the written word is portrayed on a page. But it is what I would consider more advanced reading. Now, it's true. Sorry. You can read it. I know it's in the Fowler Public Library. In fact, all of the books that I'm showing today are, I know, available through interlibrary loan here in Kansas. I've put them on there. But because of isolation and quarantines, a lot of libraries have halted interlibrary loan temporarily. You're going to have to check with your own public library about how they've chosen to handle this current situation. So you might not be able to get your hands on these books right away in an interlibrary loan way or method, but they eventually should be available to you if you don't want to spend the money to go out and buy them yourself, which is pretty understandable. So my lessons for this series are going to be primarily based off Sheila Waters' book. Remember, Sheila Waters was Edward Johnston's student. It's called Foundations of Calligraphy. In my biased but humble and still therefore correct opinion, this is absolutely the best book for beginners. It's laid out wonderfully. She's taken great care to not only show correct forms, but also common problems and what causes the problems, how to correct those problems, and improve the calligraphy overall. It's available for purchase from John Neal Booksellers, and it's there is a fairly well-known SCA Scribe discount code available at John Neal Booksellers for those that are in the SCA. If you don't know it, then you can talk to a Scribe in your group or hop on Scribe Facebook pages, and I'm sure somebody can help you get that. If you don't have access or don't want to buy Sheila Waters' book, there's another commonly recommended book to consider called Medieval Calligraphy by Mark Drogan. In my assessment, this is a good book, but it's not the best book for beginners. It is a wonderful book for maybe an advanced beginner. And the reason I say that is because he has great historical notes about the scripts, but his exemplars, I think, are a little bit more difficult to understand for an absolute novice beginner. But somebody that appreciates the history as well as the finished product, then your 1-2 punch in your beginning library, if you're going to buy books, is Foundations of Calligraphy and Medieval Calligraphy by Mark Drogan. And I think these two actually supplement themselves pretty well, and they go good together. If I was going to take on like a scribal student, then those are the two books that I would probably give them to start out with. Yeah, They're a good solid place to start. As you get a little bit more advanced, you might be looking at different scripts. You might know a little bit. We do have books like Celtic Art. This is just by George Bain. This is just one example of. He does a great job of showing a lot of Celtic artwork, how it's created, historical examples, and where it came from. So, like for right here, there's a P, and he has a mark that it came. This example came from the Book of Kells. So he does a lot of historical notes. But his alphabet exemplar, while wonderful examples of the letters, don't show you the order of the strokes. They don't show you pen angles. Those are things that you're going to have to already have a basic knowledge in order to be able to understand and to get good results from it. At the end of this series, hopefully you'll have those skills that a book like that could be useful for you in some ways. So, final tidbit of information regarding terminology. So I like using terminology correctly. It helps us learn to communicate across the discipline, but also helps other interdisciplinary studies if they can learn what a particular word means in that context. So I will do my best to use proper calligraphy terminology throughout the series, but also continually remind what that word might be associated with. So first, there is a distinction between a script and a hand. A script is a particular set of idealized forms. In modern language, we can identify print and cursive as two different scripts of handwriting. How an individual expresses those idealized forms is the hand. So your cursive hand does not look like my cursive hand. Our print hands are going to look different, even though we could look at both of those forms, put them side by side, and understand that there's an ideal thing we're trying to capture. So the idealized form is the script. It's from the script that we learn and we develop our own individual hands. So in developing those scripts, we actually have all of our extant examples are examples of hands. So we have to look at lots of different hands to figure out where they're the same, what's important about that, and that's how we end up with the script exemplars. So depending on which exemplar you're using, who developed it, what they thought was the most important similarities, there can even be variances between script exemplars, although they're usually a little bit more minor. So that's script in hand. We also have in calligraphy no uppercase and no lowercase letters. Uppercase, lowercase is a printing term where a typesetter would be setting all the type out to go through the printer, and he would have two cases above his workstation, an uppercase and a lowercase, and it's pretty easy to figure out which letters he was keeping in what case. In calligraphy, we will refer to those letters as majuscule letters, major. Majuscule letters are the big ones, capital letters or uppercase letters, and minuscule letters or little letters, mini, minor, and they're the lowercase letters, majuscule and minuscule. So I hope you appreciate this basic introduction. I look forward to doing the other parts. I plan on releasing one part every 3 or 4 days. That's the hope. That way, if you're studying along and practicing along, you'll have several days of time to practice a particular skill, a particular set, group of letters before we move on to the next step. Please feel free to leave comments below with questions or perhaps what you find intriguing about calligraphy or a particular tidbit that I've shared that was new to you. I really anticipate that your help in the comments is going to help me stay motivated to keep this going. For the next video, all you will need is a pen. I would recommend, if you have one, a felt-tipped pen, but if not, a ballpoint pen will work just fine. Maybe even red. Red would be a good color for the exercise, but it doesn't matter. Any pen will work. Felt-tip red would be the one that I would personally choose. And then I have a PDF. I'm going to have to find a place to put it online, figuring out how to link it in the description. But it's Construction guidelines for minuscule letters. You'll need a page of this, or 2 or 3 if you have access to a printer. If you don't, I'm going to zoom in here and try to explain what it is. They are squares with a circle inscribed in the square, filling that. 1/6 of the length, or the width of the square, 1/6 from each side is a vertical dotted line, and then there's an X that goes from corner to corner. On this sheet, I would say they're maybe 5/8 of an inch, not quite 3/4. The size isn't going to be super critical for this first step. With that, we're going to work on skeletal forms of the foundational hand. So if you need to make your own, the key is to try to make, if you have to make your own sheet because you can't get it printed out, you want them all to be the same. And you're going to want at least enough for the entire alphabet, but I would recommend you probably have 2 or 3 sheets if you can. So I hope you're excited. I'm excited. I've taught a number of people individually, but this is my first attempt at large-scale internet instruction. Comments, everything below. I'm going to do my best to help you out, and we'll make videos for common questions. So yeah, we're going to start with the foundational hand with the next video. So until then, stay safe, keep learning, and be kind and helpful to everyone around you. Bye.